Today's assignment, we're going to start by finding a bunch of photos that we want to reference for our future project, which is the animal tattoo or the inked animal project. And so you're going to go on your Safari or your Google Chrome or whatever it is that you're going to use as your browser, and you're going to look up different animals. Try to have at least like 2 different options of them. You're going to save a total of 10 pictures together. So right now I looked up different fox species, and it'll likely give me like the names of different ones so you can see what different types of foxes are, and then when you see them maybe you'll like one of the looks. So if you just look up like fox, you'll get a bunch of generic things, but again, the more specific we are, the more likely it is that we're going to have a unique answer. So as I look through here, it's likely you'll see something interesting. This one says it's a gray fox, and then it'll populate some other options for me. You do want to find something where you see the whole body, at least for this part. If you find one where you really like just the face portion of it, that's fine too. But try to have both types of pictures. So if I like this one, I'll hold it down and I'll add to the photos, and then it should just be in my photos file. But let's say that there are other pictures in here, again, that are closer up on their faces, so don't have their whole body. Let's say you like this one. It'll kind of be hard to turn this into a drawing because part of it's blocked off, but a lot of people can work with that. Same with this one, you're just going to have to like cut off some of the body. So I tend to have pictures where I see more of the whole thing, but it is up to you. So find at least 10 of those. Once you have at least 10 of them saved, so I'll add that to my photos. If you go to your photos, you'll see them kind of populated, hopefully all on the bottom. If you go into regular photos, it might not be there, but if you go into albums and then into your recents, then they should all just be at the bottom, so easy for you. You're going to select however many you want. There can be more than 10, it doesn't matter, but just select them. Gonna technically like share, so hit that button at the top, and then you're going to add to an album and create a new album, and you'll call this Animal Research. Save that. Then if you go into your albums, you click on that one and just take a screenshot for me, so that, and you can turn that in for your assignment. So I should be able to see that you've titled it, and done. Just save that to my photos. And that's the first part of this assignment. The next thing is that you are going to pick one of those, and we're going to do a tracing of it. So I'm going to go with this picture that I have here. It's a nice full picture of this deer. It's an interesting kind of pose that's in action, so it's walking, and so I'm going to do that in Procreate, and at the end we're going to have something that looks like this. Very similar to how we did our hand, right? So we had that layer where we had all those shapes, and so we're going to do that again. So if I go into my gallery, hit a new canvas with the screen size, and once you have that, let's make sure all of our things are set up. So we're going to go into our actions, insert a photo, and you should just be able to find that picture. We're going to use the same one today so that you can really just follow along. You can use the colors that you want to though. So when you import this picture, it'll probably end up pretty small like mine is. So in this one, you can hit fit to screen and it'll already make it very big. I'm going to zoom in even more so that it really like fills up my whole paper or my whole canvas. And then I'll click into my layers. So first I'm going to rename that. So click on it and rename that a deer photo. Oops. And done with that. I'm going to add a new layer on top of that, and that's where I'm going to draw. So on here, I'm going to rename this breakdown or shapes, doesn't matter. So if you remember, when I'm drawing on this, oops, it's kind of hard for me to see depending on what color. So what I like to do is lower the opacity of the photo, which is me going here, click on the little N, and I'm going to bring that opacity down. Now it's a lot lighter and it'll be easier for me to like see what I'm drawing on top of there. But you can also go into your background color and make it dark, and that might help you make it stand out too. So you can really do whatever you want to. You can change this into whatever color so that yours stands out. I like to either go with black or go with white. The black is kind of easier on my eyes to see, but it's totally dependent on what you want this to look like at the end. Alright, so I changed my background to dark. My deer photo has a lower opacity, so I'm going to lower that even more. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm on my breakdown layer so that I can start to draw the shapes on top. Now, when I do the shapes on top, first thing that I always do with any animal usually is I'll start with the head. Now we're not tracing this, so I'm not going over and like tracing like this, but I really want to get really super basic shapes. So I want to get the proportions, just like when we did our bottles, we would go in there, get some basic shapes for things, round it out. And then we would like figure out what it actually looked like at the end. So we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're not fully tracing it, just drawing some shapes on top of it. Right now, if you check in your brush library, I like to use the pencil ones. They're kind of fun for me. If you want to have something smoother, then again, you can go into painting, hit on the round brush, and just make sure it's really low. I like to do the sketching one because personally it has a more interesting look to me and I can deal with the opacity a little bit better, but choose whatever you want to. In my eraser, if I click on it, you can see I'm in the painting and then I've still selected the round brush as that one. So those are the settings that I have. Okay. So in the breakdown there, I'm going to do that overlay of shapes on top of there. Like I said, I'm going to go into the head, and I see this kind of pointy head, so you should have the same image as me, and I'm going to just get the indication of its skull. And the base of most skulls is going to be a circle. I don't really know a lot of animals that don't have a circular base for their head. To this, I'll say there's like a cone or like a round kind of triangle. Almost looks like a beak coming out of there. And so now I have like a really basic shape that if I was drawing this, I would know how to start this out. So it's a circle, and then like kind of at an angle, you can see, is where this happens. At that angle, you also have an eye. So just to make sure that everything is lined up, you can also see it kind of down the center. So I'm using a bunch of lines to help me figure out where this goes. I have this indication of a nose is going to be here, and then a mouth is here. So again, super basic, isn't going to look 100% like it. For me, I like to switch colors just like we did with the hands for all the different parts, and I'm going to skip around all over and you'll see me do that. So I'm going to finish off with the ears, so I'll pick a new color. I'll go in at the ears. You can see that they're kind of triangular shaped, or this one's kind of more diamond shaped to me, and then it attaches in there. This one's kind of just a triangle that's round. Gets blocked off by the other side. So I have the head, and then I have the ears, and that looks pretty good to me. Next, I don't like to necessarily do the neck. I like to do the body of this and then use the neck to connect them together. One of the mistakes that I see people make when they do the body of something is that they treat the body like a potato, and so it's just this very round kind of shape. And that's not necessarily wrong, but I want you to think of the torso and the back of this as two separate parts. So there's the front kind of area here that I'll indicate, and then there's this kind of back area. So it's almost like we're making a cylinder, right? So if you imagine those two things connecting, you can also think of it as like this is where their rib cage will be, and this is where their hips kind of are. But to simplify, I just do kind of those two shapes. and then I connect them as best as I can. So animals like this tend to be a little bit more wide at the front of them, and then towards the back they'll kind of taper in a tiny bit. So this is like where their chest is, and they'll go up into there. So you have almost this tube or cylindrical shape as your base for that. And now that we have that portion, we can connect the neck into there. So I'll switch colors again. And with anything kind of longer, we want to get the angle and the shape of the line first. So see that this line is kind of curving. Again, this is like another tube or another cylinder. So we have like the top part connects there, the bottom part kind of connects there, and this is this kind of curved tube. I'll connect into the chest area. So head to chest now are connected. All right. Next we have the legs. I like to break the legs down into the right side legs and the left side legs, or like the front and the back. So there are two legs that are kind of like behind in the back over there. And there's two legs that are, you know, in front and we kind of see them. So the other ones get kind of blocked off in the back. So I do two different colors for that. So let's start with the front legs, which I've already started. So front leg kind of breaks down right here. So it connects up into the top part or the back. And then we have this line going this direction, this kind of connecting joint, and then down into where the foot is. And again, it's just a bunch of tube shapes. So similar to your fingers, we had those like joints and then we'd connect them. You can think of these as a bunch of tubes that are connecting like that. So that's the back leg. And then let's do this one here. So again, it kind of connects into that top part. I'm going to get those lines, those areas that connect them, and then do these tube shapes. And the feet are really easy. If I get really close into the feet, I'll just trace those. They're pretty simple shaped. Okay. Now for the back legs, I'm going to switch colors. Do that same thing. So this one here, that knee area, and then down into there. So here's one kind of tube. And then the foot. Back one. So start with the lines, and that'll help you get those angles correct, and then it goes kind of forward. Notice that this one is going to get blocked off by the other. So technically, if you want to, you can like switch again. You can see this almost like elbow area in the back there when it switches over. And this cute little triangle foot. Okay, and then the tail at the end. Again, I get the line first and then a rough shape to it. I'm going to change the color of the ears since it's very similar to what we had before. So you don't have to do this if you already did that, but I just want everything to have kind of its own color. Okay. So now we have just the basic breakdown of this animal. And if I get rid of my picture, so uncheck it, you can see that right there. So there's just the little deer by itself. Next, I'm going to make notes on this for proportions because I want to be able to draw this very easily. So again, kind of like what we did with the book stack, we're going to rename this proportions on a new layer. So I made a new layer, naming it proportions. And I want to make sure that I'm drawing kind of separately. For this, I'll use a different color so it's easy for you to see. So for this, that first head shape that I have is really important. Again, it's like the base of the animal for me, so I want to make sure that everything is based off of that. So let's start with how tall he is. So let's figure out how tall this is from top to bottom. And normally we go like from the bottom, we count how many heads that is. That's fine, you can go either way. I'm going to start with where his head actually is. So right there. And you can see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like a half. So this is about 5.5 times to the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5. So that's how tall he is. He also has his little ears at the top. You can say that's like a half is his ears. So if I do a line to there, I can make this little dotted line like we did before. And we know that that's going to there. So when I'm drawing this, I'll start with the head, and then to figure out how tall he is, I'll have these measurements here for me, so I can reference this along with the photo. You'll be able to see things like, oh, the bottom of him starts a little bit under that 3rd line. You can see the knees start at like the 4th line. So all these things are here to help you. You can even extend those lines if you want to, so kind of lightly, to make yourself this kind of grid formation. And I will do that again at the end so you can see. Anyways, so that's going down. This is the height. Now we're going to have how long he is, so let's figure out the length of him, or the width of him, doesn't really matter. And so start with that first measurement, that's 1. That's about 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the bottom of him also extends. So maybe about like 4.5 is where he would end. And I'm just going to take that all the way to the bottom. Again, I can make my little dotted line to help me see that a little bit better. And again, I did this on a different layer, so if it's confusing for you to look at these for now, you can just look at that. If you want to see them, they're there. They'll also help you if you just look at the deer photo, so you can kind of see the height and the width. We can make a grid on top of this using those lines. So again, if I go on top of here and make this grid, oops, you'll be able to see all those things I was talking about earlier. So I'll extend these lines kind of out, and that will help me with the breakdown a little bit more. This is an optional step, and you definitely don't have to do it. So if you don't like all these lines being there, I did do them on a separate layer, so it's easy for you to see them or get rid of them if you would prefer to. And if they're not perfect, then that's okay. You can always adjust them as you see it. So ideally these will end up as squares, but that's what happens when I don't use a ruler. Okay, and then technically this is just where the head is. So that's like at 0 technically. Okay. So if you see everything kind of broken down together without the photo, that'll ideally help you with breaking this down. Again, if you don't want the grid, I'll just get rid of it, and this is essentially what you need. So take a picture of this, so save this. If you want to have the photo showing, you can have the photo showing, it's up to you. and you're going to share it as usual as a PNG and save that image. And that's it. Thank you.